All right, this is the ongoing amplification of the entity that is group stalking, pacing around my apartment and amplifying the sound of that helicopter activity. It's occurring with simultaneity to my documentation of the people of the state. This is in the engineered light. This is the direct evidence against the people of the state who are engaging in state surveillance and terrorism with this corrupt agency, the LAPD, who are flying in relevant position right over my apartment while they're monitoring what I'm uploading internet. Okay? And they're doing so, again, with real-time knowledge of the fact that I'm capturing them on camera. The entity is engaging in ongoing amplified audible activity, sounding helicopter. You will look at the timestamps of my screenshots because I'm showing you the impossible light activity that fills all on my carpet underneath my bed. The people of the state are their property. This is relevant positioning. They're covered in engineered light. As I capture screenshots of this evidence this is direct evidence against the people of the state. The entity is at the same time as I document by time the amplification of helicopter activity, which is indicative of the state that is communicating a threat with real-time knowledge of what you're documenting on the venue of the internet because they're engaged in Title 18, Section 2261A, subsections 1 and 2 criminal activity, as are all of the people of the state. The people of the state are communicating that threat while a corrupt law enforcement agency is engaging in the elements of monitoring. The entity acts as one to threaten you via those corrupt law enforcement agencies. That is the threat to my life by the people of the state who are coded in the engineered light. That is not sunlight, nor would that ever be the sun at this hour in any position near Alvarado Gardens at 6:31 in the evening. The entity is also showing what is targeting conduct while flying directly over me. That's also not a coincidence. The entity is doing so as I begin capturing video. You're recognizing timing of the conduct. That's also not a coincidence. The entity is also engaging what is monitoring. So I am currently right now, I just finished uploading the screen recording with the timestamp of 2024, 526, 1744 and 36 seconds, which you will see, this is all evidence, not only what I'm doing, but also I'm documenting the entity on the venue of the internet. So what I upload onto the internet, this is evidence with regard to the ability to look at the timestamps. When I'm uploading evidence, the simultaneity of conduct by the entity that's monitoring online, engaged in surveillance, that's revealing the criminal pattern of conduct and the invasion of privacy, the federal monitoring inside of the private space, and the federal stalking via communication devices on the internet. This is a threat that you just saw the LAPD engage in, which represents the state of California, is threatening my life through a corrupt law enforcement agency that's engaged in surveillance, engaging in conduct as though they're going to drop bombs on me, as though they're going to run into my apartment and arrest me as though I've engaged in some crime. I have not. They do so within what is an ongoing, regularly documented pattern as I document the state that represent the people of the state. This is the state. This is these are no private citizens. This is the state that's living in the specific environment with the entity that is literally in the same video, stalking in the path, flying directly over me with real-time knowledge of what I'm documenting and the fact that I'm capturing that video. All of that is outside any realm of what is ever reasonably contended as a coincidence. It is occurring in the specific environment, and they are literally covered in the evidence. Not only stalking in the helicopter is evidence against the people, but the engineer light that they're covered in is evidence against the people. And they are still acting with impunity. The demons are driving on the roads and the highways, on Avalon, on Effie, on Lobdell. They're driving, which is relevant positioning. And they're also doing, like you see on Alvarado, when I'm capturing the entity flying over my apartment, flying around my apartment, flying in circles in relevant position to my apartment, while engineer light is on my ceiling, on my floor, like you see right now as I'm capturing. So I want to speak to, again, what the people of the state are doing. They're group stalking while you're looking at the light source that's outside of my living room window. This is engineer light inside of my hallway. Okay, this is P.O.C. They are indeed engaged in group stalking, and this is the engineer light while the entity is flying directly over my apartment, speaking to what the people of the state at the hillside are engaging in. This is the maintenance of engineer light that's reaching across the bed onto the floor. As I also captured in still images again, so you're going to look at that. This is the evidence against the entity, and this is a demon-possessed entity. This engineer light is documentation of what is terrorism that the people of the state at 1826 Lobdell and Lucy Santos are going to be federally prosecuted for. I'm going to isolate that prosecution in court with regard to their prosecution, okay? The entity is acting as one, and the entity is doing so in the specific environment while that specific environment includes stalking in helicopters, and literally the entity just flew over my apartment in the specific environment. When you're looking at what is impossible light activity that fills my apartment. Also, remember, 6:34 in the morning, there's no sun that's going to be over my head at my front door at 11 o'clock in the morning, and a sun that's in any position at the same property aiming what is sunlight, nor is this even sunlight while the blinds are closed. and the engineer light is reaching across with what is magnified light that's even reaching under light, as though it's ricocheting off the window, reaching underneath the bed and stretching to grow up the wall. That's speaking to what is conduct that everybody on the hillside, including 1826 Lobdell, a documented terrorist, while engineer light moves across that property because they're monitoring me and they're demon possessed. And this is engineer light that's on that gate down there, by the way. Let's take a look at that. This impossible light activity, this is evidence against the people of the state. That's not sunlight, and it's impossible that that would ever be sunlight, not only because of the duration with regard to this light source, but because of what you are connecting, which are the facts, the hallmarks, the entity stalking in helicopter in the specific environment. That's the evidence against the people of the state, including 1826 Lobdell Place, that are in the same situation with regard to what is a federal prosecution that it will never avoid. And that is the entire population that you see coded in engineer light, where I'm showing you the sunrise as early as 6:30 in the morning. That is never sunlight. None of this is sunlight, and it's not sunlight that's on my floor growing up my bedroom wall underneath my bed right now. And the entity flies over by helicopter. So I want to be clear, this is Title 18 criminal conduct, and the entity engages in this amplified, meaning creates the sound so that I can hear it, which is the communication of a threat, while a demon-possessed entity that includes a law enforcement agency using helicopters to engage in what is terrorizing on its face, group stalking in the position of the government in concert with the people of the state that are covered in an entirely unnatural environment, which is also an aspect of that documented terrorizing act, that terrorizing system. Okay? 1826 Lobdell, in other words, has no constitutional argument, has no defense. And they're engaged in terrorism with the entity that just flew over my head while I'm inside of my apartment. They are monitoring me, keeping me under surveillance while they live in relevant position, which is in conformity to the long documented pattern of conduct that the people of the state are systematically and ceaselessly engaged in. You are seeing that system underway where the people of the state are living in relevant position, which is the malice with which this entity that is demon-possessed engaged in what is state terrorism with that entity that flew over my apartment. And it is currently 6:36 p.m. That is, again, grounds of what is everyone at Alvarado Gardens is going to federal prison. Every single last one, as I'm capturing images of their names and showing you what's right next to their name is the engineer light inside of my bedroom. Immediately the entity sounds helicopter activity. And I took a screenshot of that, and I'm going to add this video as an additional timestamp because this is all the entity is doing, keeping me under surveillance. Any and everything that I do with regard to documenting that criminal system, the entity engages in what is more communication of a threat. And that's why everybody here is going to federal prison. And everybody on the hillside, they're already subject to a federal prosecution, but this ongoing system of terrorism, it's going to be isolated to their name because they are terrorists the same with regard to that entity. This is Mary, Jane, and Joe that are acting as one. Okay, what the state does, 1826 Lobdell Place is doing, living in the path, and their work schedule is legally irrelevant. That specific environment where any demon drives by using their property as a means of impossible light activity, as you saw the people of the state waste management engage in, which is never naturally occurring, which is a phenomenon in and of itself systematically occurring on an ongoing basis, which is speaking to what is a system that's occurring in the entire environment. Any and everyone, in other words, is capable of engaging what is, first of all, demonic, serving for terrorism, and also, secondly, a systematic system whereby, a systematic means whereby federal group stalking and monitoring, the elements of monitoring are being maintained as a team. Everybody on the team that lives at Alvarado is going to federal prison. Everybody on that losing team is going to federal prison. The entity is group stalking, also engaged in the sex offense Silverview townhomes. Okay, and they're monitoring what I'm uploading onto the internet and then in real time communicating a threat, literally providing an admission against all of the government. And let me be clear, the people of the state are in the shoes of the government. You're not being prosecuted, nor shall you under any circumstances be prosecuted as a government when the government is utilizing your criminal presence and activity creation, which is demonstrated through the P.O.C. That's the substance, that's the purpose of the P.O.C., and that's exactly how the entity engages in group stalking you. It is currently, again, 6:38 p.m. The more that I document, the more that the entity engages in what's more stalking conduct. This is showing the delusion of those demons that are flying black and white helicopters over and around my apartment all day and all night. Exactly what you just saw, this is what they continuously do as I continuously document. And who suffers the consequences for that? The LAPD, they shall be no more. So they understand what is America's version of terrorism. This is the illegitimacy and the removal and disbanding of a corrupt law enforcement agency that is a domestic enemy. They are engaging in what is entirely antithetical. This is what we are guarding as a country from outsiders engaging in, and they are literally in this country calling themselves police departments, and they're doing it against American citizens. That criminal conduct by a corrupt law enforcement agency, which is a matter of public corruption, as their group stalking, shall be removed from existence. In addition to that, the people of the state that are acting with them, and that is evidenced through the unnatural environment. That's why it's there, because group stalking is underway. Group stalking is a sex offense, and it's an act of terrorism by a government that's acting with the people, and they're all going to federal prison. I cannot reiterate that enough. While the entity engaged in this chicanery, stalking in a helicopter, which is no small thing, Lucy Santos is going to federal prison. She's going to be there for a long time. Okay, it is currently 6:39 p.m., and this is P.O.C.